Let's talk some puck, shall we? Let's talk some Stanley Cup playoffs here as we go to the guest line and we bring in Chris Meaney, who does fantasy, betting, and edge stats for NHL.com and NHL Media. You can find him on Twitter at Chris Meaney, Meaney. Chris, it's Pat and PJ. Appreciate you joining the show, brother. How are you?
Hey, fellas. Happy Friday. Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me.
Hell yeah, man. Chris, we debated on the show last night and a little bit earlier here today. Is there a reality, in your opinion, where the Avalanche or the Hurricanes go undefeated into the Stanley Cup Final? And is that the Stanley Cup that all neutral hockey fans should be rooting for? Because in my opinion, these are clearly two wagons on a collision course to meet one another right now.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way, guys. I know they were 1 and 2 in terms of shortest odds heading into the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Avs have been Stanley Cup favorites since the puck dropped on the season, and rightfully so, right? They're loaded on offense. The addition of Nazem Kadri and Nicholas Waugh at the deadline is shored up the middle of the ice. When they won the Cup a few years ago with Kadri, they shipped him out of town. Well, he did sign with Calgary, and they were kind of missing that second-line center, third-line center. They acquired Brock Nelson at the deadline last year, and then having Kadri, they look unbelievable. They've had great goaltending all year long. Scott Wedgwood, they got, a Norris nominee again in Cale Makar. They got the Rocket winner and Hart nominee again in Nathan McKinnon. I would lean with them maybe going undefeated. They're playing a really good Minnesota Wild team, and Anaheim has been very impressive in Vegas. They'll win a game or two, but I'd say if there was a team to go undefeated, maybe them. And Carolina's had their way as well. I think things will get tougher for them in the third round, whether it's the Buffalo Sabres or the Montreal Canadiens. The Metro Division has been one of the weaker divisions in the NHL this season, but credit to the Hurricanes. Frederik Andersen has been unbelievable. Should be the Conn Smythe favorite in my opinion at this moment, but it does look like we're headed for that Stanley Cup final matchup, guys.
Chris, I feel like this has been an awesome postseason because even though teams like Colorado and Carolina are normally in the postseason every year, feels like we've gotten a lot of fresh blood this year. Buffalo makes it to the postseason for the first time in forever. You got the Ducks in nearly a decade. The Flyers. It feels like we got a lot of new teams in the postseason this year. Do you like it when the Stanley Cup playoffs is like that way? Do you enjoy when maybe the casual sports fans get to see some of these teams that aren't on these national televised games? Do you think it's been a really good postseason so far?
Absolutely. Yes. I know we only got one 7-game series in the opening round. It happened to be Montreal and Tampa Bay, and Montreal is the youngest team in the playoffs, to your point, and the second youngest in the NHL. So 4 of the youngest teams in the postseason heading in: Montreal, Anaheim, Philadelphia. Moving on here to the second round, Buffalo Sabres, the other team. So yes, you love it, right? There's a lot of great young players in the league. There's teams that have taken steps forward that we thought, certainly I thought, would take steps forward and be in the playoffs. The Canadiens, again, on this rebuild that they've had the second straight year. The Anaheim Ducks have a nice mix of experience and some youth in there as well. Leo Carlsson, Cutter Gauthier, these are 2 phenomenal players. Jackson Lacombe, breakout campaign, especially here in the postseason, taking a step forward. The Sabres you alluded to, and there's other teams knocking on the door as well. The San Jose Sharks are certainly one of those teams that I would expect maybe to make the playoffs. Utah Mammoth as well, all those years in Arizona, rebuilding. Now you see them as a competitive team. Knocked out in the first round against Vegas, but there's a couple overtime games there. They hung around with a good Vegas Golden Knights team. So extremely impressive and entertaining, I would say, postseason. And it's just going to get better because some of those younger teams that you count out, like the Ducks, like the Canadiens, even the Sabres, I don't know. Certainly those teams in the East could surprise and maybe upset Carolina. So it's really nice to see, despite like Tampa and Florida, those 2 teams have had amazing runs. It was really impressive to see those runs from those 2 teams, but new blood is always good for the game.
We're talking to Chris Meaney here on BetMGM Tonight, Westwood One Sports. I'm Pat Boyle. We got PJ Glasser filling in for Brad Evans tonight. Chris does fantasy betting and edge stats for the NHL, NHL.com, and NHL Media. You can find him on Twitter at Chris Meaney. Chris, specifically within this Hurricanes-Flyers series, this has gone about as well as Carolina could have hoped. Dominated game 1 and 3, and in game 2, when the Flyers scored 2 in the first 5 minutes, Carolina just chipped away and then won it in OT despite being heavily outshot in that overtime period. Is Carolina's best weapon their goalie, Frederik Andersen, and is he maybe starting to put himself in the conversation of the all-time postseason great goalies?
I mean, I think a Stanley Cup would certainly put him in that conversation. A great question. He's had playoff experience before. not the best of luck. I know things didn't work out for him in Toronto, and in Carolina, he's put up really good numbers, especially in the first couple of rounds. The Hurricanes are a team we're used to seeing in the Eastern Conference Finals. Just seem to can't get over that hump. I know Florida's kind of been their kryptonite, no Panthers, so maybe they get it done this year. But he's kind of penciling himself into the conversation anyways. 12 goalies to begin a postseason with a 7-game winning streak. He's the third in the last 30 years. Igor Shesterkin with the Rangers in 2024, Marc-Andre Fleury with the Penguins in 2008. So it's an impressive start for him. Perfect, right? Leading the league in save percentage, 957, high danger save percentage, all these metrics we track over at NHL.com/edge, whether it's mid-range, long range, he's been perfect. He's leading every single category. One of my favorite statistics is 5-on-5 close save percentage. It's essentially when a game is tied in the first or second period or within one goal in the third. He's perfect so far. So he's getting the run support. He's getting the offense. Carolina can come at you in waves. They're always among the leaders in shot attempts and eliminating high danger chances. They're a really good 5-on-5 team. The goaltending and the offense. Sometimes the offense dries up for them. The secondary scoring, sometimes the saves are not there for them. So far they have been. And as I alluded to earlier, I think that Andersen should be the Conn Smythe favorite at this moment. Carolina looks like a juggernaut.
Chris, the other Eastern Conference series, we have game 2 of Buffalo and Montreal going on. The Canadiens up 2-0 right now at the end of the first intermission. Do you think the Habs are going to hang on tonight and tie this series up at 1? And who do you like to win this series the rest of the way? Both of these teams really good throughout the regular season. You think we get a 6 or 7 game series between these two?
I do. I sure hope so. It's good. It's always entertaining to see that 7th game, but I did have Montreal in 7, and even seeing Buffalo win in the game 1, I haven't wavered off of that. I thought the Canadiens did a few things that they could take some positive things away from that game despite losing. They only had 11 shots at 5-on-5. They allowed 3 in the first period despite being down early in that game. They hit 2 posts in the first period as well. They own the draw, 64% of the faceoffs, which is something that you want to see throughout the playoffs. And the Sabres have been one of the worst teams in the circle all year long. So that could be an advantage. It could be a deciding factor, winning draws in your own end on the power play and whatnot. So 18-11 were the shots at 5-on-5 in game 1. And they started off strong tonight, right? So both teams they're familiar with each other. They've had great battles all year long. There's a lot of speed. The Sabres bring a different element that the Canadiens didn't see against Tampa Bay. All of the Sabres defensemen are 6'4", 6'5". They're trees. They box out very well. They're very physical. Buffalo is hard on the forecheck. They got a lot of speed. But the Canadiens are a team that it's fun to watch them because we just don't know what their ceiling is like. It's a young core. We haven't seen the top line produce at 5-on-5. Other guys have contributed here and there. They have some really good defensemen on the back end, like Lane Hudson, who I think was in on the first goal, and Matheson scored the second one. So I think this will be a series that goes the distance. Buffalo's been one of the best comeback teams in the league, and the Canadiens have had some issues holding leads, but I do think they're in a good spot here tonight. And I like I said, I think this is a series that will go the distance, and Carolina may get a dozen days off. Who knows how that series is going to end against the Flyers.
We're talking to Chris Meaney here on BetMGM Tonight on Westwood One Sports. Chris, what have the Anaheim Ducks been able to do so well that they not only ousted the 2-time reigning Western Conference champion Oilers, but now have also already taken home ice advantage from one of the most experienced teams left in the postseason in the Golden Knights? Why is Anaheim having the success that they're having?
They're coached well. Joel Quenneville is experienced. Bringing him in, another young team, talked about them earlier, led by 61 and 91. 61 Cutter Gauthier loves to shoot the puck, among the leaders in the NHL in shot attempts. Leads the Ducks with 19 shot attempts, 12 scoring chances at all strengths in the series. Got 60 attempts at all strengths, which is 3rd in the postseason. He can really rip it. Leo Carlsson as well, breakout campaign. He was taken, I believe, 2nd overall a couple of years ago behind Connor Bedard. He leads the Ducks in shots in this series with 8. He leads the NHL at 5-on-5 with 29 shots. These are 2 studs. You bring in Jackson Lacombe as well into the conversation, a good 2-way defenseman was on the ice over 50% of the time. Connor McDavid was on the ice in the opening round, and he kind of held him in check, certainly in the first couple games of that series. Then you have guys like Alex Killorn, won 2 cups with Tampa experience. Bringing John Carlson at the deadline, won a cup with Washington. Ryan Poehling is a good underrated two-way center. Mikael Granlund's been through it. Rookie Beckett Seneca, 2 goals already. So they're the only team actually in the playoffs to have 9 guys with 5 points. They have offense up and down the ice. The biggest question I had for them is because throughout the regular season, kind of played to a lot of overs. Those are fun hockey games. You take the over in the 6.5, you're most likely getting it with the Ducks because they gave up a lot as well. But the goaltending's been good so far with Lucas Dostal. And guys, you're right. They have owned Vegas. Through 2 games at 5-5, the scoring chances are 49-27 for Anaheim, 21-12 high danger chances in favor of the Ducks. The shot attempts are 91-73, and the shots are 45-33. So this is a very impressive team. They were good all year long at home. With all that said, Vegas has got a ton of experience. I think their big boys will show up. Jack Eichel, Mitch Marner's been good throughout the playoffs. They're looking for offense from Thomas Hertl. I think it's 28 without a goal. So I do believe that that's another series. We might get 2 short ones with Colorado and Carolina, but this is another one. I'd be pretty surprised if it wasn't going to go 6 or 7.
For sure. Chris, earlier this week, we had the draft lottery, and Toronto ended up winning that, so the Leafs have the number 1 pick. Who do you expect to maybe be the number 1 pick in the upcoming draft this summer? And do you think whoever it is, do you think he'll be an impact guy right away? Do you think the Leafs will have a bounce back season after a disappointing year this season?
I think it will be Gavin McKenna. And it's interesting because the Leafs still have some pretty potent players on offense. And, they're just a year removed from taking the eventual 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. That series won 7 games, and you could make a case for them. They were up in that series, I believe 2-0, and up in game 3 by a couple goals. So they still have some pieces, and, they lose Mitch Marner. Gavin McKenna's kind of reminds you of Marner a little bit. Smart 2-way player, playmaker, got a little bit maybe more offensive firepower to his shot and maybe more of a goal scorer than Mitch Marner. But they really do need some help on the blue line. So they could field some offers. They can go with Stenberg, who's a great player as well as a Swedish player. And you bring in Matt Sundin in the front office, Swedish roots kind of makes sense. Or they could flip the pick and we're going to see probably 4 defensemen go in the first 6 picks. So they could maybe trade back and get a defenseman. So there's all kinds of things that the Leafs can do. I view them as a playoff team. I think a lot went wrong this year. Certainly a lot of injuries, adapting from life without Mitch Marner. Let's be honest. I think this is a 2-way superstar, and I think Matthews missed him on his wing. He's among the leaders in playmakers over the last, or primary assists over the last 8 years. He's a really good hockey player. But I think they need to shore up. I think this is going to be a crazy offseason for the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? Matthews got 2 years left on his deal. They want to keep him. You're going to get the first overall pick. You're going to get a good player there. They need to shore up their defense a little bit, so they could make a trade or 2. But I would say they're going to be in the conversation to make the playoffs. The Atlantic is going to be a very good division. Again, it was the best in the NHL this year. We talked about up-and-coming teams. There's going to be a lot of good teams in the Eastern Conference they'll have to battle with.
We're talking to Chris Meaney here on BetMGM Tonight, Westwood One Sports, for about another 2 to 3 minutes or so. Chris does fantasy, betting, and edge stats for the NHL, NHL.com, and NHL Media. Chris, if I'm wrong on the Avalanche, and I think a lot of people would end up being wrong here if they end up losing this series. If the Wild are going to get back into this series, what or who is most critical for the Wild to do that?
They really need Joel Eriksson Ek. I know he didn't practice today. They said they're going to leave it up to him if he can make his return for Game 3. They're already so thin down the middle of the ice. I'd love the addition of Quinn Hughes. He's phenomenal. Was he leading the playoffs in points? He's right there. Maybe tied for first. I think he's got 11. To have a defenseman like that who leads the playoffs in ice time, he's playing half the game. They have it made on the back end with him and Brock Faber. And they got some really good players in Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy. Matt Zuccarello is a good veteran piece as well. Ryan Hartman's been a good player. But my question for the Wild heading in, the Stars were banged up. I like Dallas against them because they were deep down the middle. No Rupe Hintz. We hear all the news about Mikko Rantanen, among other guys, really that were hurt. The Minnesota Wild are a little thin down the middle of the ice. So they're going to need Joel Eriksson back in the lineup, whether nobody's 100% at this time of the season, even just 75% two-way centerman who can maybe slow down McDavid or McKinnon rather just a little bit, win some faceoffs in the defensive zone. But ultimately, they're going to need other guys to step up offensively. Goaltending is going to have to be perfect, right? The power play is going to have to be better as well. This was a third-ranked power play. So far, they're 0 for 5 in the second round. The Avs had the 27th-ranked power play. So far, they have 3 power play goals. That's been the difference. People may be surprised at 5-5. The shots and the shot attempts are dead even. The scoring chances so far, Colorado +6, high danger chances, Colorado +2. It's been the special teams so far that has been the difference in this series. There's some things that Colorado can feel okay, or Minnesota can feel okay about, despite giving up a 9 spot in game 1. They go back home, clean up the special teams a little bit, maybe get Joel Eriksson back in their lineup for game 3 or game 4. Maybe they can get back into this series.